it right?
You got it right this time. Yeah. My name is Tom Kerner, and I am an alcoholic. Hi, everybody. Through the grace of God and with the help of Alcoholics Anonymous, I've been continuously sober in this fellowship since September 15, 1978, and for that I continue to be grateful. I have a sponsor, he has a sponsor, we sponsor people, they sponsor people, and we're all active in service. Got a home group, and actually I got 2 home groups. So I attend those meetings every week without fail. And it's good to be back with you again tonight. Ran into, I got COPD, and then I had the COVID there and all that stuff. But I stayed out of the hospital, which was my goal. So anyhow, a lot of good people took care of me, a lot of sponsees, and made sure I got oxygen and everything else. So I really appreciate that. And, I'm here tonight because of the fellowship and because of our interaction. And I apologize for sticking you with Johnny for 2 weeks in a row. But yeah, we all have to suffer. So that's life. But we're here. We're going to talk a little bit tonight about steps 10, 11, and 12. And in the big book, step 10 basically tells us to continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. And it says when these crop up, not if they crop up. And then it tells us what to do. It's a compilation of the first 9 steps. It also says there that in step 10 that we're not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Daily reprieve. So, I think that's where the 24-hour program started. I remember when I came in, they said, "Can you stay away from a drink for 24 hours?" And I said, "No, I couldn't." And they said, "That's okay, a lot of us can't either. Can you stay away from a drink for the next 5 minutes?" I said, "I can do that." And I've been doing that for over 40 years. I haven't given it up the rest of my life, although it's getting shorter all the time. But for the next 5 minutes, and I've learned to do a lot of things for the next 5 minutes that I couldn't do if I thought I had to do them all day long. I can listen attentively for the next 5 minutes. I can be nice to people for the next 5 minutes. I can focus on things for the next 5 minutes. So it's a big help. So step 10 kind of tells us that we got to watch out for things on a daily basis. Step 11 then gives us specifically how to go through the day. And it talks about that in there. At night, we have a checklist we can go through. I use that checklist during the day. And it tells us what we do in the morning. We ask God to give us guidance, to divorce our thinking from self-centeredness and to grow on that way. And it also tells us what to do during the day. When we're agitated, to stop, take it easy, and ask for guidance, and it'll come. Step 12 in particular, it says, in the book, it says, nothing so much ensures immunity from drinking as intensive work with another alcoholic. It says practical experience shows us that. It works when everything else fails. The big difference in chapter 7, which is devoted to step 12, is it goes from a we book. We beg of you to be fearless. We ask you. We suggest. In chapter 7, it goes to you. Okay. You can help when no one else can. You can secure their confidence. You can easily find people to work with. And there's so many yous sprinkled through here. And what it's doing is it's pointing the finger at my chest. it's telling me that I really need to do something. Because step 12 says, having had a spiritual awakening or experience as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all our affairs. You know, it doesn't mention sponsorship directly, but sponsorship has been important to me in many ways. When my early sponsors, I got sober in Portsmouth, Ohio, and within a year we had moved up to the Cleveland area. But my first sponsor, my first two sponsors, my first one, Chuck Hall was the older guy, and Chuck was directly sponsored by Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob would sponsor a lot of people in those days, and Chuck was a consultant, so he traveled around the state, because Akron was further north. So our linkage, our network of sponsorship goes directly back. We can trace it back to Dr. Bob. The guy I really asked to be my sponsor was sponsored by Chuck, Red Wooten. And, Red was a wonderful man, and I'll tell you a little bit more about him later. But what sponsorship allows me to do is to have intimate and personal relationships with other people that I normally wouldn't be able to have. Because as an alcoholic, my natural instincts are isolation and procrastination. Isolation, let me alone. I can handle this. I know what to do. And procrastination is putting off what I need to do today to some future date. Yeah, I know I got to stop drinking, but I'll do it tomorrow. And tomorrow would come. Yeah, but I'll do it tomorrow. And I used to think procrastination was strictly laziness. That's a part of it. But I think the bigger part of procrastination is fear. We're afraid of what lies ahead. I don't know about you, but I was kind of afraid if this didn't work, what was going to be next. But I didn't really want this to work. I just wanted to learn how to drink. So, anyhow, I'll tell you more about some of the people I sponsored and some of the people that sponsored me in a little while. But right now, I'm going to take a breather. Hey, get the hell up here. Don't take too long.
Alcoholic Johnny Tatum, thank y'all for letting me talk. Big Daddy?
Just imagine they didn't erupt into applause.
That was kind of funny, like the weekend that you worked, the first weekend that you worked here, man, it was a big crowd. I thought, oh, yeah, Big Daddy ain't here, they came here. Yeah, because here Johnny, right? And then it got a little smaller. So I figured out they weren't here to hear me, they were here to see you. All right, step 10, page 84. This thought brings us to step 10. 3 parts to step 10 and a principle they're going to put at the end for us to live by. All right? They're going to break that. I see 3 parts. First part, we continue to take personal inventory and continue to set right new mistakes as we go along. Where have we learned to take a personal inventory? 4. Step 4. So, step 10 is a written inventory. Sorry, they wrote the book. I didn't. All right? Regular written inventory. Sitting down there, I'll tell you, you'll be surprised that when you get pissed off about something, if you'll just grab a piece of paper, 4-column inventory, why are you pissed off? Write it down and you'll be surprised at the relief you'll get just by writing it down. All right? You try to think about it up here, start spinning like the Jackson 5. Okay? You write it down, you'll be surprised. One day I looked at the floorboard of my work truck and I just happened to notice that there was probably about 10 little pieces of paper where I had written resentments and why I had them and the facts and the faults. And I looked and I said, maybe I ought not be throwing all that stuff down there. Somebody get in, their name might be on it or something. And so I started wadding them up and and are scratching through them on a piece of paper. So we learned all this skill through steps 4 through 9, not just to go through it one time. Okay? If you'll go back to step 4, it says regular inventory. A business which takes no regular inventory usually goes broke. They tell us at step 4 that you will be taking a regular inventory regularly. All right? Every Wednesday night we get together on the front porch and we do inventories. We go around, all right? And we'll resentment, fears, and misconduct, and we confess them to each other, okay? It's a regular part of our written, and we do it written too. If we have anything to write down, we write it down. If not, we're going to drag something out of you. First part, written inventory. Second part, it says, we vigorously commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. We've entered the world of the Spirit. The next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. Second part of step 10. So how do you grow in understanding and effectiveness? Folks, what this is basically telling you is we become a student of recovery. Remember at step 3, we ask God to be our director. That means that we become teachable, all right? But if you're not listening and learning and reading and trying stuff, you're not going to learn nothing. If there's anything there's endless information on, it's the 12 steps, 12 traditions, and 12 concepts of Alcoholics Anonymous. You can go to the website and you can download stuff. You cannot listen to it all. Okay? This guy's talking about the 12 steps. This guy's talking about the concepts. This guy's talking about traditions. You can listen to it forever. All right? I mean, what it's basically telling you is that we are going to be studying this stuff the rest of our life. Okay? A doctor. He can be a skin doctor. He can be a heart doctor. He can be a surgeon. He can be an eye doctor. You can stay in medical school the rest of your life. What this is saying is you're going to stay in the school of recovery. I mean, there's just endless information, endless books that you can read about the history of Alcoholics Anonymous, the steps. So this is our job. Now, what good is it to know all of this if we're not effectively applying it to our life and helping others? So the first function is continual inventory, continue steps 4 through 9. Second part of step 10 is we become a student of recovery, and it tells you, it says, this is not an overnight matter, it should continue for a lifetime. So we'll be a lifetime student. You know, when I was, living in Lawdy, it's an hour everywhere. When we were going to places, I was going to meetings in Jacksonville and Gainesville, and I would put in a CD of this guy and listen to his thoughts on step 4. And on the way home, I'd put in another CD of another guy and listen to what he says on step 4. And you know, it's just hour after hour. I used to lay in the back bedroom. I had a little thing back there, and I'd just sit there and listen to stuff. And you know what? Some of that stuff I kept. Some of it I don't like that way he's doing that. Some of it, I really like that way. I'd pick up little nuggets here and little nuggets here. And then it was kind of funny how I would come back to stuff that I'd kind of 10 years ago and said, no, I didn't like that. When I first got sober, somebody gave me a Father Martin CD. And I was listening to Father Martin, and I really didn't like him, and I threw the CD away. Well, here about 6 or 7 years ago, I'd gone down somewhere in South Florida to speak somewhere and driven down there. And we were driving back, and my wife had a Father Martin CD that somebody gave her through some Al-Anon stuff to listen to. This is all I got. Damn. I recalled 10 years before throwing that away. Well, I ain't got nothing else to listen to, so I put it in there. So I get to listen to Father Martin. I'm driving down the road. And I'm driving down the road. I start to pull over, you know what I mean? And she said, what's wrong? I said, listen to him. Man, he's throwing it out there. You know, what had changed? You know what I mean? And that's why we continually become a student of this. You'll be surprised at stuff that you had listened to 10 or 15 years ago that you just rejected, that you're driving down the road now, you'll have to pull over to listen to the guy. You know what I mean? But you will never experience that if we're not a student of recovery. You will never grow into traditions, and you will never grow into concepts if you don't do it on your own, because you damn sure ain't going to hear it in the meetings. You're going to have to reach out there to try to find some of that stuff on your own. Because for some reason or another, we don't talk about the traditions and the concepts in the meeting. We give it a little lip service. That's it. All right. Then the third part. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends to quickly we've harmed anybody. The spot check inventory is step 10. Now, this is what I have found. We are probably the weakest at the spot check inventory step 10, catching ourselves with this stuff. But I have found out this. The more written part you do, the better at the spot check part you get. It comes opposite of the way you think it was. If you'll continue when you catch yourself, for example, start writing stuff down, you'll be surprised how you'll be able to catch yourself before you ever write it down in the spot check part of the inventory. When we start perfecting the written part, you will start getting better at the spot check part, catching yourself. All right? It's kind of cool how that goes. Now they're going to leave us with one heck of a principle. It says, love and tolerance of others is our code. So every time we get in a jam or anything, the one question we need to ask ourselves when it pertains to step 10 is, what part of love and tolerance is this? All right? If you can train yourself to ask yourself that one question, what part of love? Man, I want to fix to straighten this joker out. He ain't going to treat me like that. What part of love and tolerance is this? All right? You know what step 10 is really geared towards? That right there.
Yep.
I'm sorry, boys. I wish I could make it more complicated and more philosophical and a little deeper and a little bit more spiritual and a little bit more It ain't. It ain't. Well, with us rednecks, it's two things. That right there and that right there. All right? You know what I mean? We're a little different breeding. You know what I'm talking about? But really with step 10, you know, James talks about this. If you read the book of James, this right here could set a whole forest on fire. Step 10 is really, if you boil it down, it's geared to that. It's geared to that. How much trouble has your mouth got you in? Y'all are laughing because you know it's damn true, right? Before you even got to this, you'd started with this. Right? Wow. Page 85, it gives us a whole list of 10-step promises. But before that, it says, we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol, for this time sanity will have returned. We'll seldom be interested in liquor. Didn't say you'd never be interested. All right? It said we're seldom. It said if tempted, we recoil as though from a hot flame. How do you get away from a hot flame? You say, oh man, this is really burning me. I think I'll step away gracefully. Or you get your butt up and get the hell out of there. All right? So what this is telling me is when I'm in a situation that I don't need to be in, there's nothing wrong with me getting up and getting the heck out of there. Now it says we react sanely and normally. I don't start saying, oh, I can't believe you drank in front of me or anything like that. It just says, I got to go. You just say, I got to go. The last time this happened to me was probably 5 or 6 years ago. I took my old Harley Davidson down to a little town south of me. Old boy works on old antique stuff. And I got down there and I knew he smoked pot. You know, and it didn't. I've been there a dozen times. It just don't bother me, okay? He sit there and he fires up a bowl, but for some reason, that day, that pot smelled good. I was 15 years sober at the time. For some reason, it smelled good. And I just looked at the boy and said, Harley, baby doll, I got to get to the house and get some stuff done. I'll come back and get this motorcycle tomorrow. All right? I just got up and left, okay? Why sit there smelling it? I don't know why. 99% of the other times I've been around him, I know he's smoking pot, he's working on my stuff, it didn't bother me. But that day it did. All right? I didn't raise hell. I just left. What step 10 says, it is, you can leave gracefully, but get your butt up out of there. All right? Now, how much common sense is that written into the steps? A whole bunch, ain't it? It says we're not fighting it. We're neither avoiding temptation. We feel we've been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We're not even sworn off and said the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. How do we? That is how we react as long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. How do we keep in fit spiritual condition? Refer back to the first paragraph. The 3 parts of step 10. It goes on to talk about it's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on the laurels. Laurels is work already done. We're headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. We're not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. All right, two things I want to talk about. I'm going to sit down and let Big Daddy come back up. You're going to walk in the rooms and you're going to hear this debate. Recovered or recovering? Somebody says, I'm a recovered alcoholic. He never recovered from alcohol. They get mad. Somebody says, I'm recovering. The big book says recovered. All right, and you'll hear them fighting back and forth. Well, I was down in Tampa here a few years ago, and I went to hear these step speakers, part of step 10. I'm seeking out wisdom from other people. And I was sitting there with this old boy. I met this old boy at the coffee pot, and he was from down that area, and I kind of made friends with him. It was a day-long conference. After about 6 or 7 hours of conference, this topic came up, and they were all fighting back and forth. Me and him sitting there drinking coffee, listening to this side holler and listening to this side holler. He leaned over at me and said, Johnny, you know I got shot in this leg about 4 or 5 years ago. I said, no, I didn't know that, man. You were walking okay. He said, yeah, I've recovered from that gunshot wound, but I ain't bulletproof. That's how I look at it. I've recovered from the hopeless state of mind and body, okay? But I'm not bulletproof. I'm not bulletproof from alcohol. I don't know if you remember this, but several years ago, you told me, Big Daddy told me, said one of the goals of Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12 steps, 12 traditions, and 12 concepts, is to actually make a square out of you. Or that unless somebody actually knew your personal story, they would have no idea that you were a recovered alcoholic. They would actually be shocked. That, to everybody who doesn't know it, we're just a guy that gets up and goes to work in the morning, comes home that evening, watches TV, and wakes up the next morning, goes to work, comes home that evening, watches TV, and every now and then leaves for an hour or so and comes back. That the average world we would not stand out as an alcoholic. When you were out there drinking, you stood out. People would look at you, look at that damn drunk. And isn't it? And people think that's kind of crazy, but isn't that cool that we have a program that unless they knew your story, they would think you're just an average old boy. Big Daddy. That's your rescue moment.
We need to get an escalator built in here. Make it a little easier for me. You know, you talked about Father Martin. I forgot about that. I actually saw him when we were in New Hampshire a couple of times in a row. I liked him early on at the beginners meeting. When I first came in, they would show Father Martin films, Chalk Talk and stuff like that. And he helped me understand this thing. Through Alcoholics Anonymous, and before I get into that, steps 10, 11, and 12 are the maintenance steps. And it says that in the book. And we do them on a daily basis. But we've got to do the first 9 to get to that point where we can do that. You know, I want to talk a little bit about 2 things. First of all, when people go back out, it's not because they did 10 wrong, or they didn't do 8 quite the way it should be. It all comes back to step 1. And that's chapter 3 in the big book devoted to step 1. And on that first page, it tells us that the one thing every abnormal drinker has in common is the obsession that someday they will control and enjoy their drinking. And that's why, in my experience, people go back out. Okay. There's 2 parts to step 1. Admit it, we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Nobody seems to have a problem with the powerless, like Johnny said. You see our stories, that's obvious. It's the manageability that trips us up. You know, whether you're a day sober, a week sober, a year sober, decades, several decades, that manageability comes back in. All of a sudden, I can do it. I don't have to worry about my higher power. And then that obsession comes in. Well, I've been sober for a while. I think I can handle it now. Okay? This time I'll get it right. And there we go. And I've seen guys do that. Resentment's a big one too. Okay, you get pissed off at everybody, get arguing about who's recovered or recovering, I've seen some good arguments in AA. Not about good things, just good arguments. What attracted me to AA, and I had been to some meetings off and on early on, but what attracted me was the laughter down the hall. And it wasn't laughing at people, it was laughing with them. And my favorite story I'll share with you is Red's story. Red was he had his own little sawmill. It was kind of half collapsed, and sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. He was a wonderful man, great disposition. I keep thinking of the description of Santa Claus, jolly old elf. And he always had a smile, and he did have a twinkle in his eye. But he just made you feel at home and relaxed. And he had a sense of humor that attracted me. And one of his favorite stories, and I give him credit for, is he talks about he went out fishing one day, and he's sitting by this stream, kind of a slow-moving stream, and he's under the shade of a tree. And Red liked his moonshine, and he had his mason jar there with a good chunk of, or good gallop of moonshine in there. And he threw his pole and, his line in the water off the pole, sipping on the moonshine, just relaxing. Life's good. And he pulls the line out and it's empty. There's no bait on the hook. And, he wanted to catch something, at least to show he had put in some effort. So he looked around, what can he do for bait? And he looks down, and next to him there's this little green snake. And it's just starting to eat this little frog. And he looks at that and he said, that frog would be good bait. Reaches down, grabs that little green snake, pulls the frog out of its mouth, ties it onto his line and puts it in the water. And he goes fishing and sipping on the moonshine, looks down there, and that little green snake looks at him with sad little eyes. And Red's feeling bad. He thought, geez, I stole the dinner from this green snake. What can I do? So he picks it up, holds it up, pours a little bit of that moonshine down that green snake's throat. That snake straightens out, goes in a circle, looks like a lightning bolt, and just takes off. And Red thinks, Jesus, I hope I didn't hurt it. He goes back to fishing and sipping and having a good time, and about 5 minutes later, Red feels a tap on his leg. And he looks down, and there's that little green snake. He's got 3 more frogs. What I learned in this program, I've learned from the people in it through action. And you're going to do what the people around you do. If you hang around with crazy people, you're going to do crazy things. Hang around with stupid people, you're going to do stupid things. You hang around with recovering people, you're going to do things in recovery. You hang around with students of the good book and steps, you're going to learn to put that into your life. And the men I have around me today and the men I've had around me over the years, and women, wonderful examples to me. And I've learned from them. I didn't say I was good at it, but I learned to be a father. I learned to be a son. I learned to be a husband. I learned to be an employee. I learned to be an employer. I learned to be somebody that cares about other people through these people, through their action. And, these aren't 12 steps we debate or write or think about. There's 12 steps of action. And you have to take action. The people that are sober and sober long term, and, that's because they took action. I've had some good sponsors over the years, and I told you 2 of them. Another one, when I moved to New Hampshire, Tommy Lawton. We keep in touch from time to time. Tommy was a high-powered attorney in Boston, and he worked on some large cases. You'd know some of the names if I mentioned them to you, divorce cases. But I won't, because I don't want to start political discussions. But he got down there. He was making big money, but big car, expense account, just a whole ball game. Sharp guy, but he couldn't get off the coke, couldn't get off the booze, and so finally he gave up that lifestyle and moved up to New Hampshire, and he went into teaching and stuff like that. But just a great guy, wonderful guy. Some of the people that I was able to work with and watch, there was my wife, Sue, when she was alive, she was in Al-Anon 7 years before I got sober. And she was a wonderful example. Because of that, I still have kids that talk to me today. She just helped. I just can't say enough good things about it. I love Al-Anons. As bad as the alcoholics have this disease, it's the people that care about us that have it worse. Because they didn't get a chance to pass out. They didn't get a chance to black out. They remember every hurtful thing that was said. And it takes a lot of courage to get past that. I had a home group when I moved from, I had one in Portsmouth, and I moved up to Cleveland and I got involved in a home group up there. And a home group is a group that you go to week after week, no excuses. You participate, you do what you can. You learn different jobs in AA, and you progress up through the service ranks. I served in most service positions available in AA. Up through, I was a delegate to the conference from New Hampshire, and I sponsored a couple guys that one of them was a trustee later on. But through that home group, I met some people that once again showed me examples. One guy in particular was not my sponsor, just another mentor and another peer in the home group, Al Total. And as the story goes, I got a letter from federal court in Columbus one day, registered mail. Never got anything good by registered mail. And I was immobilized by fear for several days. I went to meetings like I was told, didn't take a drink, but I didn't talk to anybody either. Didn't even know how to broach the subject. Until like on the third day, I finally walked into that home group on Friday night, and Al took a look at me, and he said, "Jesus, you look like hell. What's going on?" And I told him about this. I was getting sued, and the money I had taken and embezzled from a couple of companies that I was part of, it was definitely felony stuff. So I was looking at going to jail. And I was immobilized by fear. And it was a cruel thing for my family because we were just getting back on our feet. And I got their hopes up again. And there's nothing we do worse than get people's hopes up, and tragedy hits again, we go back out, or this stuff from the past grabs us, and we throw them down into the pits. So I was concerned about that. But anyhow, Al said to me, "Are you praying?" And I said, "Hell yeah, I'm praying." I was a year and a half sober. He said, "What do you say?" I said, "God, get rid of this crap, please," because I was a year and a half sober. So I knew how to have manners. He said, "That's not the way to pray." I said, "It must not be." He said, "When you go home tonight," he said, "try something like this." He said, "Get down on your knees and, say something to the effect that, God, I'm not asking you to get rid of this problem for me. I'm just asking you to give me the strength to bear it." I went home that night and I prayed that way. I said, "God, I'm not asking you to get rid of this problem for me. Just give me the strength to bear it." and I got the strength to bear it. I can't give you the, step by step. I don't remember a lot of that. But I got through that. And I got through a lot of things since and continue to do that. And God gives me the strength. And that's what AA teaches us. It teaches us to have a higher power, to believe in a power greater than ourselves. AA doesn't ask us to believe in a being. That's up to you. But it does ask us to believe in a power. My power is God. And it's worked out good. I've sponsored a lot of people over the years. I sponsored a convicted murderer who was never supposed to be released, but he was. And he went on to raise a family and become a deacon in his church. A man that had killed 3 people in a blackout when he was a teenager. And he served 30-some years in prison. Hell of an example. Many, many good people. I'm reminded as we go through life, though, and I can't say enough good things about my wife. I wish I had more time to just talk about her. She was an amazing woman. Through her, we were down at the dedication of Dr. Bob's house in Akron on Ardmore Street. And she got invited. I got to tag along. She was on an alcoholism council. And through that, we met Sue Smith, Dr. Bob's daughter. We were standing outside as the governor dedicated that as a historic site. Sue was an Al-Anon delegate when they met in New York. And through her, I went up to one weekend and I got to sit and chat with Lois Wilson, Bill Wilson's wife, 2 or 3 years before she died. And these were just ordinary people that you wouldn't have recognized. Ordinary people that did extraordinary things through the grace of God. I met a lot of the real old timers in the Cleveland area. Some of the people that were in the big book early on, some of the early people. But the people that helped me and continue to help me today are guys like some of the men in this room. I watch what they do. I get to see the miracle in other people. I'm also reminded that God just lends us people, places, and things. Okay? So I've been taught because of that to, appreciate what's in front of me. I don't sponsor gays. I don't sponsor blacks. I don't sponsor straights. I don't sponsor whites. But I have sponsored alcoholics who happen to be gay. I've sponsored alcoholics who happen to be black. I've sponsored alcoholics who happen to be any number of things. Alcoholics first. We put all the other outside issues aside. And as an alcoholic to an alcoholic, I can understand where they're coming from, what they've been through at that point. What do we bring to a meeting? I don't think it's so important what I get out of a meeting as what do I bring to it. My health hasn't been that good, but a lot of times I tried to teach people is to go around and shake hands before the meeting. It's always was good to me when I was new, and even today, when somebody comes up and shakes my hand and says, hello, I'm so-and-so. And, that's the way we pass it on. That was the first decent contact I had with the human race, was when somebody reached out and shook my hand. And Johnny was talking about something else that reminded me, in steps 10, 11, and 12. I try to pass on something, and everything I passed on is not because I've done things well. It's just the opposite. I pass on the mistakes I've made so you don't have to make them too. And one of the things I try to pass on and tell my guys is rule number 1. Rule number 1 is shut up. If you don't say it, you don't have to make amends for it. You can think all you want in your head, and we do, But rule number 1 is shut up. Shut up and think about it. And with that, I'm going to shut up and let you wrap it up.
I thought you were doing it out there.
Well, I was. But then I saw you glaring.
Alcoholic Johnny Tatum. We have a natural tendency to let the wrongdoing of others minimize our own wrongdoing. Step 10 keeps that in line. Okay? You know, step 10 was really a whole different way of looking at life. We used to say, God, get me out of this. God, take this away. Step 10 says you turn that around. God, what do you want me to get out of this? God, what do you want me to take away from this? Okay? It's a whole different way of looking at things. And when we start doing it that way, you know, I want to tell you what we found out about step 10. Guess who it helps you get along with? Other people. Because we have found one thing. If you're taking your own inventory, guess who you're leaving alone? Everybody else. All right? And when you're leaving everybody else alone, guess who you're getting along with better? Everybody else. That is kind of funny. Step 10 of when really taken, especially if you've been sober for a while, the one thing that's really effective with step 10, it keeps us from drifting into smug, self-righteous superiority that a lot of times will happen to us after we've been sober for a while. We'll start taking everybody's inventory in the group. All right? And it's not right. Step 10 changes the way we think. You know, we're driving down the road. We're stopped at a red light. Bunch of us there. Cars everywhere. One guy runs the red light, another guy hits him. Accident. There's going to be two reactions. These people over here are going to call the police to assign blame. Some people over here are going to call the ambulance to call for help. Step 10, hopefully, when practiced well enough, puts us in the groups that's calling the ambulance for help. Instead of the group that's calling the police to assign blame. See, we've been police callers for years. Yeah. We've been assigning blame for years. Well, let's call for help. Okay? And it's a whole different way of looking at things. Step 11, you know, talking about meditation and everything. And I don't know about y'all, but when I first got sober, I was going to these meditation meetings and they were like lighting a candle. And we had to sit there for about 15 minutes, you know, and I could do it for about 3. You know what I mean? And I remember that I was looking around like this here, you know what I mean? And I could think, did I close the gate to the cow pen? You know, and stuff like that. And I was struggling with it. This old boy I knew had been sober about 10 years more than I had. And I said something to him about it. He said, what are you doing? He started laughing at me. He said, that ain't what they were talking about. And then he gave me a 1935 dictionary, and I still got that dictionary. He said, look the word meditation up in it. And I looked up the word meditation in that 1935 dictionary, and it said, to ponder a subject deeply. See, what we're thinking about now is transcendental meditation, where we sit there and try to clear our heads. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? I'm not putting that down. But that's not what they understood as meditation back then. The word meditation had a whole different meaning to them back then. That transcendental meditation didn't come into the 60s. And they give us an example of how we're going to meditate. They start out retiring at night. Right. I do this every night. I have not missed a night, and I don't know. When I go out of town, I take my book with me. Okay? Because I don't memorize it. I was taught not to memorize it. You do it. So, we retire at night. We constructively review our day. Where were we resentful? Stop. Review your day. Where were you resentful today? Where were you selfish? Stop. Review your day. Where were you dishonest? Stop. Look back through your day. Where were you afraid? Stop. Review your day. Next question. Do you owe an apology? Next question, I'm going to ponder it deeply. Have I kept something to ourselves which will be discussed with another person at once? Next thing I'm going to ponder deeply. Was I kind and loving towards you all? Ooh, it's a hard one sometimes. Next subject I'm going to ponder deeply. What could I have done better? Folks, there's nice. I don't want to do this inventory because I already know the answers. Okay? But I do it anyway. Next question. Was I thinking of myself most of the time? Or was I thinking what I could pack in the stream of life, what I could do for others? I stopped every night. Now, I'll tell you what will happen when I found out. After about 6 or 7 months of doing this, if you're not careful, you'll find yourself speed reading the questions and answering them fast. And when I do that, then I'll switch over to page 99 to 12 and 12, the St. Francis Prayer. God, make me a channel of thy peace. Where there's hatred, may I bring love. Stop, review my day. Where I see some hatred today, I could have brought some love. And I'll do that for about a month. Then I'll go back to page 86. I was taught to use the St. Francis Prayer as a form of meditation, too, to answer every question in that way. Talks about on awakening. We think about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially being divorced of self-pity, dishonest, self-seeking motives. Still using that prayer. What I found out about my morning meditation is this. I don't brush my teeth. I don't go make my coffee. I don't do any of that. Rolling out of bed, I go straight to my prayer room. We're empty nesters now, and so I got my children have moved out, and I turned my son's back room into my prayer room. And I found out if I get up right then, don't do anything till I do this, I'll get accomplished much more in there than I will if I go make my coffee and brush my teeth and get everything. Then I'll rush my prayer life. All right? It's better to rush your coffee than it is your prayer life, y'all, okay? And it's a habit plus I want to give God the first fruits of my day. I think it's a way of honoring. The minute I wake up, the first thing I'm doing is giving it to Him. To me, it's just something I want to do. I want to be able to give Him, hey, before I do anything, before I give me anything, I'm giving you. And that's kind of the way it is. And it talks about we consider our plans for the day. Part of our daily meditation is, look, there's a lot of things that's going to hit us out of left field that we don't know that's coming. But there's a lot of things that you're going to do tomorrow you know you're going to do, okay? When we wake up that morning, and sometimes it's like this, God, I got to go to the doctor today. Please give me the clarity of mind to ask the questions I need to ask. How many times have you left the doctor's office and you said, damn, I wish I asked about this, or you forgot? All right? Or sometimes it's like this, God, at 12 o'clock today I got that appointment with that special someone I need to choke. I want to choke so bad. Please help me not choke them. All right? See, I'm already know sometimes when I wake up in the morning, we already know where our resentments may lie, or our fears may lie, or your misconduct may lie. All right? So aren't we fools not to go to Him with that morning and ask Him? It goes on, it says, in thinking about our day, we may face indecision. We may not be able to determine which course to take here. Here we ask God for an inspiration to the thought of the decision. There are going to be things that you don't know what to do about. Aren't you crazy not to talk to God about these? I'm thinking about buying this jet ski. What do you think? Pray it about 3 or 4 times and see if you don't get a question. What the hell do you need a jet ski for, boy? You know what I mean? I've gotten kind of answers like that. You damn fool, what are you going to do with that? And different things, or I don't know what to do about this business decision, or I don't know about this business decision. And we'll go to Him about it and everything. It says we'll relax and we take it easy. We'll see surprised how the right answer comes after we've tried this for a while. But if you don't try it, the right answer will never come. So I'm going to talk to Him about the day ahead. I want to tell Him my plans. I tell him I'm planning on running at the planer mill that day. All right, God, today I'm planning, if it is your will, I'm planning on running 1x4s. You know how boring they are. Help me get through it. Y'all don't know anything about sawmill work. 1x4s are easy to run, but they're boring. You know what I mean? There's like 480 to a pack. Where like 6x6s are 48 to a pack. All right? And now 6x6s, sometimes when I'm running timber, I say, all right, I'm going to run timbers today if it's your will. And I'll be having a hustle. Give me clarity in the mind to see what's going on. I even tell Him what I'm doing at work. Those of you with children, wouldn't you just love it if your son or your daughter came up to you and said, hey, Dad, Mom, this is what I'm planning on doing today. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and what do you think? It would just overjoy your heart to have that kind of relationship with them, wouldn't it? But what do you think it does with your Heavenly Father? Same stuff. Step 11 is where we draw near to Him. And how can we draw near to Him if you don't spend time with Him? How can we get to know somebody if I don't ask any questions and tell Him? You think this is about sitting like this? You do that for a while. I ain't got nothing against that. I got buddies who are trained meditation guys, and they get a lot of stuff from it. I'm looking at them like they're crazy as hell. And God bless them. You know what I mean? But what I was taught here was different, okay? It talks about, then it gives us the 11th step promises. It says, what used to be a hunch or occasional inspiration gradually becomes a working part of the mind. Being still in experience and just having made conscious contact with God is not probable we're going to be inspired at all times. We might pay for this presumption with all sorts of absurd ideals and actions and ideals. So really right there, if you look at this, it gave you permission to make a mistake. All right? So starting out with this, you're not going to be... I asked a guy I love and really looked up to one time, how do I tell if it's my voice or God's voice? He says, you act on it. If it turns out really good, it was God. If it turns out really bad, it was you. You screw up enough, you'll get used to which voice is which voice. I remember we were a couple years married. I was 2 or 3 years sober, and we had to go to a wedding out in Destin to some of my wife's people, and I knew there was going to be a lot of drinking there. I'm probably about 2 years sober. So that morning in my meditation, I said, God, there's going to be a lot of drinking at this wedding tonight. My wife's people are heathens. I didn't say that. I said, so what do you want me to do about it? And I was inspired to go to an AA meeting. So she found where there was one outside of Destin in Santa Rosa called the Camel Club. I started heading for it. Now, this is back before GPS and stuff, and I can't find it. So I'm practicing this. I said, God, if you want me to go to this meeting, I need some help. And I seen this convenience store. So I pulled in this convenience store off 98 and walked in there. There's a lady behind the counter, and I asked her, I said, do you know where such and such road is? She says, no, I never heard of it. There was a young guy standing there, and I asked him, he said, no, I never heard of it either. And I seen this old guy walk in, a long-billed fisherman, bearded looking, alcoholic fisherman-looking guy. Me and him kind of looked at each other, nodded at each other, but I know damn well he didn't know where no AA meeting was. And so I go back and get my car. So I'm inspired. If God doesn't want me to run no dadgum AA meeting, I have to do something. Cowboy my ass up, get back that dadgum wedding, get through this, quit running to a dadgum AA meeting, quit being a dadgum punk, get in there. By the time I saw the road, I'd passed it somehow. So I make a U-turn on 98, come back and go in there and sit down, and sitting right across from me is that man I wouldn't ask directions. He smiled at me, he said, we've met. And he turned out to be just a spiritual, loving man and everything. See, I asked for help, but because God didn't send it in the right package, I didn't take it. I learned a lesson that day. Sometimes the help's not going to come in the package I would assume it would come in. And that was a lesson that I learned 17 years ago, 18 years ago. And different things like this is going to happen to you, okay? As you travel the spiritual way of life, you're going to ask for something that's going to send it, but it's not going to come the way you thought. And you're going to learn, well, I need to look. It kind of teaches, God's going to teach us to look underneath boxes. It's going to teach us to look over here. God was cool before the word cool was ever invented. All right? He was. It says as we go through the day, we pause when agitated and doubtful and ask for the right thought or action. Can you give him a second before you go off with this? Can you give him a second? You notice that look at step 10. Step 10 is hitting our inventory with this way. And step 11 is hitting our inventory with this way. All right? And the difference is with step 11, we're not only asking other people's apologies, we're asking God's forgiveness too. One of the biggest difference. So if we're hitting it this way with 10 and hitting it this way with 11, our chances of getting along here is a little bit better, okay? I have learned, I wish I could, if anything I'm weak on is this pausing moment, okay? Like y'all, I don't know if y'all can tell, I'm the type that I just don't fish. You know what I mean? I can't stand there. I got to, you know what I mean? I'm going, and I wish I was a better pauser, okay? But I have found myself pause. I did practice it this week. Matter of fact, me and my wife both practiced it this week with a particular family situation, and I kept asking God what to do about it. He kept telling me, shut up, let it go. And I shut up, let it go, and things have gone all right. You know what I mean? And I thought that was pretty cool that he kept telling me, shut up, because he talks to me pretty simple. Shut up! And I love it when he talks to me like that. You know what I mean? I don't know. Y'all might need to be divinely inspired. I need to tell him straight up. Just tell me straight up, God. So we constantly remind ourselves we are no longer running the show. Humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, thy will be done. Y'all hang with me on this. That's a little point I want to make before I sit down and shut up. Page 63. Take away my difficulties, the victory over them will bear witness to those I help with thy power, and love that way in life. May I do thy will always. Thy will be done, huh? Page 65. There's a sick man, how can I be helpful? God save me angry, thy will be done. That's nice, that prayer's there. We're on a roll here. Wait a minute, page 85. Every day is a day I must carry the vision of God's will into all our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. That's 3 times I've seen that prayer. Wait a minute, here it is on 88 again. Thy will be done. I'll make a bet with you. See how many times through the day you can say, thy will be done. And see if your day doesn't get better. You know, if you'll read the big book, it says we're supposed to pray without ceasing. And that sounds impossible. But what if I can just, through the day, say, thy will be done, thy will be done. I taught myself to do it by putting an A on my hand with an ink pen. When I was early, I wrote an A on my hand, right in the crease. And I was going to have it tattooed there, but she taught me I love it. And it stood for alcoholic, arrogant, asshole, all the above, thy will be done, thy will be done when I said it. I had one buddy that did it, taught himself to do it with a little piece of white out he put in the center of his watch because he's always looking at his watch. Another buddy of mine did it with sticky stars all over his phone. Another buddy did it with, he lived in Gainesville, he did it every time he saw a UPS van. In Gainesville, we saw a lot of UPS vans, and I didn't understand that. And then he said, Johnny, UPS, unrelenting pursuit of sobriety. You know, and I got it. I'll make a bet with you, and I'll back this bet up. See how many times in a day you can say that will be done. That simple prayer. And see if your day doesn't go better. I've said it probably 30, 40 times a day. Okay? It's just a new one. I've kind of got a new one now. Less of me, more of you, God. And look, if we can do this, look at these promises. We are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, and foolish decisions. Isn't that kind of cool? We become much more efficient. We don't tire so easily, for we're not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life ourselves. It says we alcoholics are undisciplined. And we let God discipline in the way of just outlined, pages 84 through 88. And I try to live in there. And I'm going to shut up with this about step 12. You hear all kinds of philosophical, all kinds of bullshit about step 12. Step 12 is this simple. We see the new guy. We say, baby, I've been where you've been. Somebody show me the way out. You want me to show you where they show? Come on, baby. That easy. You know, and I hear all kinds of stuff. We go into detox. I was in detox Tuesday. And I want to go in there and try to bring something positive. That you ain't weak. That God's there. That you can do it. And every time I never fail when I leave, the guys that come up and say, y'all ain't like them other groups that come in here. I actually like listening to y'all. Them other groups, you know, the other groups that come in there to detox, you're going to die! You're going to die! Hell, they know that! How about bringing them some hope? All right, you're going to live if you do this. You know? And you'll be surprised. Big Daddy talked about in a detox, want to smile and just going around. I'll go around there one of them and say, baby, where are you from? They'll tell me, you know, the personal level, connection right there. Step 12. Actually given the step 12 is as simple as this. the most valuable thing that you have, the most valuable thing that you don't know how much you got left, all right? It can be over tonight. The most valuable gift you can give any human being is this, your time. Because you don't know how much you got left. It could end tonight on the way home. So the greatest gift we can give another human being, the greatest gift you can give a fellow sufferer is your time. Are you too damn busy to do it? Are you too damn important to do it? Oh, you was all right when they give it to you to save your ass, but now you won't do it. I'll shut up now.